Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. All right, for the first time ever on this show, I am sitting down with multiple bikini pros to get their insights, perspectives, and experiences on something that we're all going through right now. And before we get into everything, make sure you check out www.celestial.fit/podcast because there will be a full show notes page on here breaking down the episode timestamp. So you might be able to skip ahead or listen to certain parts that you're really excited to hear or get specific insights. So I was actually messaging with Anya Nicholson, who's on the line, about this situation we're all in, with this coronavirus and the lockdowns and the show cancellations. And she asked if I ever considered doing an episode on it. And I record really far in advance, so I hadn't talked to anyone specifically about it yet to get released immediately. And she thought it'd be really cool to hear from different pros. And from there, we kind of were just like, let's get a group together. And so on the line are some pros you've already heard on the show. And they've come back to come as a group. And we're all going to chat together. So it's going to be a really cool experience. We have Anya Nicholson, Ashley Kottwasser, Carla Garthwaite, Phoebe Hagan, and Jennifer Dory. And you guys may be wondering how this is going to work. I am also wondering that, but I'm going to do my best to facilitate this amazing group dynamic and conversation flow. But also just hear from each individual. So I'm excited about this. I know these girls on the line are ready to get into it. And so to kick us off, I actually wanted to ask Anya, when you reached out to me about this episode, what were some of the things going through your mind, maybe in your life or your prep, regarding the virus situation and the show cancellation unknowns that, inspired you to reach out in general?
When it comes to doing the podcast, honestly, I was thinking, how is everyone in the industry, and not only in the competition industry alone, but in the fitness industry, going to deal with this transition, and not knowing how long it's going to last? How is everyone going to continue to deal with it and move forward with the competition season for us, and then for our own fitness journeys? How is this going to affect us in the short term and then in the long term? So that's kind of what was going through my head. And I reached out to you. I was like, I think it'd be a really good idea to get a bunch of girls together from our industry, the competing aspect of it, and kind of see how everyone's doing personally, professionally, how they're doing with clients, how we're doing with our preps, and kind of get everybody's perspective as to how they're dealing with things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to get into today. And I have a lot planned, and I wanted to turn things over to Ashley and ask you, you had just come off of a surgery and that forced you to pull out of the Arnold, and then to have had this come up after already being, on your own lockdown with your eye surgery. What have you been going through with these changes?
Yes, that is exactly right. I was telling people this feels like my second quarantine, because after surgery for 2 weeks, I was just supposed to have as minimal exercise as possible and just to stay in and relax. But yeah, it's kind of in a way a little bit disappointing, because it's right when I got to get out and started going 100% with my workouts, it's this happened. But I'm making it work. I've told you before, I was never a home workout kind of person. I probably did 2 home workouts a year, because all these gains were made in the gym for me and on the track. But I'm making it work, and you got to get creative with your workouts. You got to adapt. You got to switch things around. But it definitely can be done. And I'm definitely surprising myself how good of workouts I'm actually getting here at home compared to the gym. So yeah, it's definitely 2020 hasn't started off to the best start, but hey, there's still a lot of the year left, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, yes, and you're doing the best you can in the situation you're in, just like you were before. And that brings up, a really good point, which is something you had mentioned in our little group chat about, what could we talk about on here? And that was, how did you get yourself back into that 100% mindset? And after we hear from you on that, I definitely want to open the floor on that topic in general and getting into that 100% mindset that you usually have.
Mhm. Is this question for me or for
Yeah,
everyone?
let's start with you.
Okay, just making sure. So yeah, it is hard to get into that 100% mindset, not knowing when the next show is going to be for us. But the way I look at it is it it takes so much effort to get back what you've lost, right? So you can take this time and throw all your fitness away. You can gain weight. You can like really relax on your diet. But at the end of the day, when you do get back into the gym, that's going to be so hard to work off. I mean, it takes so much more effort to work it off than it does to maintain. So in my mind, I'm just, I left off on a really, I guess, good note before quarantine happened. And I want to keep my physique in any way, shape, or form. So like I'm doing all I can to like make sure I stay on track. And most of that is honestly diet. For a lot of the bikini competitors, it's going to be diet because, for most of us here, we have enough muscle for bikini. But in order to maintain our physique, that diet is going to be super critical right now.
And I know we've all been through it before where we've gained the weight or we've put on maybe more weight than we expected or we had health issues come up and then we had to work really hard to get into a place where we could maintain comfortably and healthfully. So I'd love to hear from you, Carla. How are you getting into that 100% mindset right now?
Honestly, it's not been as easy for me as a lot of other people. It has something to do with the gym per se, not being able to go to the gym. It's just that, like Ashley said, a lot of the shows are being canceled or postponed. And for us, when you start a prep, you work towards that show day. And for me right now, I was in such a good place. I came off of a really good off season and I was in prep for the Puerto Rico Pro. So right now it's just hard for me just because a gym's a part of like my lifestyle, and it's hard for me to get motivated in my garage trying to work out in the same exact room every day. It's just really hard for me. I have a family, and my husband lost half of his salary, and my children are having a hard time doing online schooling. So for me, it's more than just the gym. There's a lot of other things involved in this quarantine. So for me, it's just staying like Ashley said, like staying on my diet. That's my main key. And then just trying to do some kind of exercise so that I don't get depressed, or I'm trying to keep up my physique as best as I can right now. But for me right now, it's just trying to get up to even like do exercises in my garage, to do things. It's just, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And like everyone always is like, I want to be a stay at home mom. I'm like, no, you don't. So yeah, I'm just going day by day, just taking it day by day.
Yeah, I know you've definitely have a lot of different moving parts and pieces in your story behind this, and I'm definitely going to be asking you actually about how you are managing all those things. Now, I'd love to hear from Phoebe. What are you doing to keep that 100% mentality?
I've really adjusted. I'm someone that really adjusts well to my environment. So when something kind of goes wrong for me, or like a situation has changed quite drastically, I really adjust quite easily. And I don't know why I adjust so quickly to things, but I do. And I've really gotten into kind of the groove of now working out. I'm lucky enough that I have kind of a home gym at my partner's mum and dad's house. It's weird though, obviously we go round because it's about a 5-minute walk, but we can't go in the house. Obviously, we have to go around the house, around the side gate, because he has younger brothers and sisters, and obviously his parents and stuff. So we can't see his parents or like spend time with them. We just have to go around. I've been doing good. I've been in and out of my mentality of obviously when shows are going on, because I've obviously seen that the New York Pro, Puerto Rico, all the shows, the bigger shows are getting postponed to obviously the end of the year or nearer the end of the year. And that's what I think obviously a lot of people will be aiming for. I know there's still a few going on at the end of May and June, but I feel like they will be, it's difficult because you don't know. Like, it's really hard to set yourself and like, let's give it 100%, and then it's like, oh, let's get pushed back a few weeks. We're like, okay, that's fine. And then it starts to kind of like daunt on your mindset of like, okay, is this going to happen every single time? Like, am I going to get pushed back every single time now? So it is a bit of a hit and miss mindset. And what I actually quite struggled with a lot was, well, like I said, I adjusted really well, so I've gotten into the groove of it now. But when I started to see other people struggle, I was like, how could you not adjust to this? How can you not just get into the groove of it? We're athletes, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't kind of realize that everyone's lifestyle was so different within this situation. Like, obviously, Carla, you've obviously got a family and you've got kids. I know so many people now who've had to become teachers to their kids, which is like, I've got a few older clients that have kids, and they are finding it really, really hard to be just now teachers, having to teach their kids every day. And also be on prep, and also like just be in a totally different lifestyle to what they were beforehand. And like other people said, like their jobs are kind of like been pushed back and stuff as well. So I didn't really look at anyone else's kind of lifestyle within this situation. I was kind of like, I had that kind of athlete mindset of, I will do anything it takes to kind of get to stage type thing. But I didn't realize how hard this situation has kind of affected everyone else as well. So it's interesting seeing how everyone's kind of taking their mindset and how they're adjusting. I think it's good that everyone's pulling together. I love seeing on Instagram that everyone's kind of like, here's a workout that I've tried, give this a go, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, that's fine, but this is what I've been doing, it works well. And everyone's being very positive, which I really, really like. So yeah, it's been good. Like, my mentality has been good. Obviously, I'm human and I have my up and down days, but overall it's been good. It's just taking each day by day, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all doing. And kind of I had a similar experience where I was like, at first, oh, my life hasn't changed that much, and then, you know, when clients start reaching out about certain things or people need help with other things, you realize, yeah, everyone is different and going through different experience. And Jen, you were actually in prep, and I believe you're still in prep now. So how are you doing with your mindset through all of this?
I kind of agree with Phoebe on how I'm standing. Like, I've adjusted pretty well to everything, just making do with what I have, because my life hasn't changed too drastically, thankfully. I do have a lot of cardio equipment at home. Recently, I had actually bought a Stairmaster for my garage, which thankfully I did because it was perfect timing. So I'm still able to get in my cardio. I do have some dumbbells and whatnot in my basement. So my workouts and cardio haven't suffered, I would say. I mean, obviously it's not the same as going to the gym, and I do miss that environment, that pace, because it does, I wouldn't say get boring, but it's almost like it's the same little thing you're doing every day. And I'm like, okay, like enough of the home workouts now. So at first I was excited because I was like, you know, it's a challenge. It's something different. I changed my training to circuit style because I don't have as heavy of weights that I do at the gym, obviously, and I don't have the machines. So I was like, you know, it'll be good for my cardiovascular. It'll be good for fat burning. And at that point in my prep, it's kind of like, I'm not really adding muscle. I'm just maintaining the muscle that I have. So that's pretty much diet and cardio and just maintaining with decent weights. So I think that part for me has been pretty easy to adjust to. I think the biggest thing is diet for me, keeping that mentality to not slip up on my diet, because sometimes in my head, I'm like, oh, you know, like late at night, I'm like, oh, I could reach for this. But then I'm like, if I do, then am I self-sabotaging myself down the road if the shows do get, you know, they pop up and all of a sudden I'm 8-10 weeks out of a show, am I going to be ready? So my coaches and I had discussed a game plan, and obviously with Toronto being canceled, I was, I think I'd be 9 weeks out of Toronto. So I was definitely disappointed about that, but we just had to adapt and adjust our plan to a new focus, which just gives us a little bit more time. And I'm kind of just using this as something to keep me sane, basically, to focus my energy onto, because if not, I just feel like if I had nothing that I'm working towards right now, I would just feel like, I don't know, like a dog trapped in my house or something. Like I'm just living day to day, like just to get through the day. So this at least gives me something to look forward to, like light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that just keeping that mindset that even though I don't know when exactly the show is going to be, I'm aiming for like a somewhat date of a show. So that's kind of been helpful. And just keeping on point with my check-ins with my coaches, staying accountable is a big thing too.
Yes, absolutely. The accountability and then having that date or like a projected date in mind to kind of keep your eyes on the prize essentially. And it's interesting that you brought up, you have had those thoughts of, oh, I want to reach for this at night and eat this, but then hold on, is this self-sabotage, and stopping and pausing yourself to really consider what would be driving that decision. So I think that's really awesome that you were willing to share that. And Anya, how about you? What's been on your mind with this? Like mindset wise, how are you, getting into that 100% mentality?
Mindset wise, I feel like I'm doing pretty good right now. I'm not going to lie. When I first found out about the quarantine and the stay at home and social distancing, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is going to be really easy for me because I'm a homebody, right? I love spending time at home. But as the first week passed and the second week came on, I was like, okay, this is getting a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, because I'm a homebody, but I'm not that much of a homebody. Like I love going out and doing things and going to the gym. Like going to the gym for me, I go there for the vibe. So adjusting to workouts at home was pretty difficult after that first week. So making sure that I kind of cultivate my own like mindset before my workouts, like going into it being as positive as I can. Separating like different places in the house. Like I don't know about y'all, but I love eating like dinner in bed sometimes. But making sure that I do my workouts in a separate room and eat in a different, like eat in the kitchen, and like separating out different areas, like, and for workspace too. Making sure that I use different areas of my house has helped me form more of a routine. So I found that that's really helped me personally. And then of course, like Phoebe talked about social media. Seeing everything that everyone's posting and coming together, whether it's the band workouts and the simple workouts using dumbbells, just doing like the basics like that and seeing everyone come together has definitely helped me a lot. Prep wise, I definitely say like diet is probably the hardest thing for me right now. Sticking to my diet, not going in the kitchen past like 9 o'clock. So definitely keeping my diet in mind. And kind of going in with the mindset as this continues, you don't know how long it's going to last, how long, quarantine and social distancing will be a part of our lives. But thinking ahead of time, like, do I want to be in the same spot I was when I started this prep? Do I want to lose progress, kind of like what Ashley touched on? Do you want to work more into who you want to become 6 weeks from now, or do you want to lose that progress and then when all this is over, kind of restart and then have to work back to where you are? So keeping that in mind has definitely helped me and kept me motivated.
Yeah, that's very relatable for me as well. I felt like after, I started a prep for the prep this time last year, just nice and slow and steady. And then when all this happened, I was like, I deserve more, like I am worth keeping the results. I'm worth maintaining this. I'm worth putting the effort in. And I think that a lot of this really does go deeper than surface level. It comes down to like, who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? How do you want to show up for yourself as well? And those considerations can really help in this time. And, a lot of you have now mentioned that the show's being postponed, not knowing what's going to come up next and changing your training style, those kinds of things. Are any of you completely scratching this season of competing and just going to build and re-strategize altogether? Or are all of you kind of in the mindset of, let's just keep going?
Keep going.
Keep
Yes.
going.
Definitely.
I think all of us are literally like, yep, we're still competing.
Yeah.
Can't
pretty
stop
much.
Mentality, weird. My mentality's kind of been like, whenever a show comes up, like I'm just gonna jump in. Whenever it's like 100% kind of confirmed. I know I'm from in the UK and stuff, which may be a bit difficult with the borders and stuff. So I don't know when I'll actually be able to fly. But if a show comes up and obviously it's all good to fly and stuff, and like I'm ready, that's kind of the mentality I have, because I've worked
Mhm.
for this type of lifestyle that I want, where I can kind of compete when I want, and when I please. And obviously I like the process of like getting into prep and stuff and training and being an athlete. So for me, it's an easy thing to kind of keep doing. I won't lie, when I found my show was cancelled, it was like, that's the first thing I wanted to do, was reach for food. So I don't know why that was kind of a thing, but I think all of us, when we're either like not sad or just like disappointed or something like that comes up, you're just like, oh, it's upsetting, and I wanted to go and reach for food, like, but I didn't, and I stopped myself, and I'm kind of like, right, okay, let's just reset and just think forwards, and moving forwards and seeing what needs to kind of be done, looking forward into the future, instead of kind of just like Jen said, self-sabotaging yourself.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, I've gotten so many reach outs from girls now, like, who are having those habits and behaviors revealed to them that previously weren't coming up. Their relationship with food and how it's been impacting them, or maybe now is impacting them because they're stuck in the house, they're always around food, they're able to grab it. So, Ashley, what are you doing to stay on top of your diet? You said this was something you were really focusing on.
Yeah, so I'm eating the foods that I normally would be during prep. In fact, I'm trying to keep everything in my life as close to normal as I possibly can, even if that means like, every Monday do shoulders, every Wednesday do glutes, and cardio every other day, just like I would in regular prep. I just have to adapt and be creative and, modify my workouts. But yes, with the diet, it's still the same foods that I eat on my regular prep. And I'm surprised I haven't had any intense cravings yet, because that is one thing that we all need to be careful of is, like you mentioned, when we're here, it's boring, so we eat, and we need to entertain our taste buds too sometimes, it feels like. But I try to stop myself before that happens, and I have a lot of like healthy snacks that I can go to if I'm getting like that taste for something sweet, like sugar-free jellos, for example. So it's nice to have those handy for whenever I do, or my taste buds get a little bored, then I can just, reach for the healthy foods.
Awesome. That's great insight. So have any of you had to actually change foods on your plan because you haven't been able to get it at the grocery store?
Not yet, surprisingly.
Really?
Not yet.
I didn't have
Yeah,
eggs for about 2 weeks.
surprisingly. Oh no.
I couldn't have egg whites or eggs or anything like that for about 2 weeks because I couldn't find any. I think there's about 5 shops near me, and I couldn't, in all of them there was no eggs whatsoever. So we finally found some, and we just bought I think like 90 eggs. So I didn't want to be that person to obviously buy in bulk, because I know there's loads of people that are going out, but I was like, I don't want to run out of eggs just because I wanted some, because that's what I have in the morning.
So you got 90 instead of 100 just to be.
Yeah. They came in like packs of 30, so I got 30 and then just got 3 of those.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of girls are realizing that, there are some things holding us back, but hopefully that continues to slow down and people, are able to control themselves at the store. And something we have to think about too is, some girls have access to these amazing home gyms, like fully developed cable pulley systems.
I wish.
Right? And then you think about like the girls who don't have access to that, and how is that going to impact not only the competition itself, but the way people are feeling about the progress they're able to make. And so many girls think, oh, I can't make progress without this fancy equipment or without gym-like equipment. So Jen, I know you've been doing a lot of workouts with really just bands, and you said you have a couple dumbbells in the garage. So how have you said circuit training, you've changed it up. Are you changing your, are you doing more volume? Like what has been the major difference?
Yeah, so I think like you were saying, it depends, one, based on the equipment people have, but I think it also depends on the individual, because some of us already have our maximum amount of muscle that we need for the division. So for instance, I've been told, don't get any more muscular. I don't really need any more size. So me maintaining my current size is more than enough than what I need to bring to stage. Whereas someone who is trying to grow into their prep might, they obviously aren't at the same spot as I would be. So if you can afford to lose a little bit of muscle, then you're likely in a much better spot than someone who needs to put on some size, or if you're an ectomorph, you have a hard time keeping that size. me personally, I've been posting a lot of band workouts just because that's pretty much what I've been getting requests for, because a lot of people don't have dumbbells or bands with handles. Most people just have the booty bands is like a staple. I think everyone has those in their gym bag or somewhere in their house. So I've been trying to post things like that that are mostly relatable to everyone that they would have available to them. And then with my own workouts, I've been doing a combination of banded stuff. I have like 5, 10, 15, 30-pound dumbbells. So I've just been incorporating bands and dumbbells to add onto more resistance. And like I said, circuit training, just because one, like it keeps it interesting. So I can get my workout done in like 30, 40 minutes. I set a timer and I just do rounds. And also I can challenge myself the next week that, let's say I made it through 4 rounds and I just died at 4 rounds this week. Next week I can try and push for 5 rounds of that, for instance. So it gives me something that I can kind of up the ante next week and just keep challenging me. And honestly, the circuits have been killing me for cardio-based workouts. Like at first I'm like round 2, I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad. Then I get to round 3 and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't think I can even make it through this round, let alone a 4th round. So I've been doing a little bit higher reps just because I don't have the heavy weights to go to failure with like an 8 to 12 rep range. So my reps have been like 15 to 20, and I've usually been doing like 4 to 5 rounds depending on the workout.
Yeah, I love that insight. That's really, it's really important to think that you can change your routine. You can change the way you're approaching this, and that's okay. And you have to accept those changes. And with any decision, we have to accept the consequence or the result of that decision. So like you said, being mindful of where you're at with your body and your goals, and then using that to your advantage or making the most of it, and then finding new ways to challenge yourself. Sounds like that's been motivating you. I do the same thing with my runs. I'm like, if I did this route at this pace or this fast, I would do it again. And Carla, I know you have I think I've seen some of your videos. You've got like a little bit of a setup. Tell us about what you're doing.
Well, I went out and tried it like a couple of weeks ago when shit started getting real. I went out and I was trying to buy like workout equipment, but people were buying all of that also. So, and then they're like jacking up the prices if you try to buy it on Craigslist or on Facebook Marketplace. All of the weights and everything have been marked up. So I got my hands on a couple of things. I already had some dumbbells. I have a lot of bands. I think all of us girls kind of carry bands in our gym bag. So I have like a bunch of bands, but yeah, we've been slowly adding things into my garage, and I love it. I have like a barbell, I have plates, I have dumbbells. So it's not the same, obviously, as it's harder to get like good, you can do glute work and leg work pretty easily. It's back gets pretty boring real fast. It's real hard to do a good back workout in your garage. But yes, I'm blessed to have what I have, because I could have a lot less.
That's a really nice mindset to have about it, like making the most of what you do have. And Anya, weren't you supposed to fly back to Denver this past week?
Yes, I was. So my flight actually has been changed. I didn't realize it until the morning of, and I got to the airport at the wrong time.
Hold on, you're breaking up on us. So you got to the airport when?
After my flight had left.
Oh
no. So I didn't realize my flight had changed, and I was like, oh well, shoot, I guess I'm going to be here a little bit longer than I thought. But honestly, I was really nervous about getting on the plane anyway. I was nervous about flying here. I'm glad I'm here. I get to be with my mom and take care of her and help her with stuff, because she's by herself here. So that's nice. But flying back was definitely a big concern of mine, because I think they were condensing flights at this point. So now that I don't have to fly back, I am still here. So
yeah, definitely. And I think it's like you said, if it obviously was meant to happen. Sometimes I feel like when I don't want to do something or not supposed to, I like manifest it not happening. So it's great that you were able to, get what you really needed out of it, and you're able to be with your mom, and that's awesome. And you guys, we talked about like how we're all ready and willing to jump into the next show that gets, scheduled, like everybody's going for it. I know a lot of you are already have a good amount of points for the Olympia. Some of you are really trying to qualify. Phoebe, you in your last season were going hard, getting those points, and just barely made it. So are you planning on taking a similar approach this time when the shows open up again? Just do whatever you can? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like, so, like, obviously the last 2 years have been very close. So I pretty much got my pro card when the point system literally changed. So it wasn't like when you're in, it was just through point system. So that's all I've kind of ever known. So it's been difficult. And obviously the last 2 years I've been very close, been in like the 20, I think like the 23 mark. So I got 22nd last year, and then the year before that was 23rd. So it very close. So again, I'm going to take that kind of same approach. I love the fact that they've opened up the qualification now to the end of August instead of the beginning. So we have more time. And that was one thing I was a bit worried about, like obviously trying to fit in a show or try and get qualified by the beginning of August was going to be a bit difficult. But now they've got obviously another 4 weeks, it's perfect. I actually do have a show in London. Well, there is a show in London, in England, this year, at the beginning of August. So that's if all comes, like worst comes to worst, and there's no shows in the US or no shows that I can go to kind of in Europe, in Spain or Italy or anything like that. For me, I would literally just do the show in London, hopefully if it still goes on, which is only, I think, about an hour and a half away from me. So it's not too bad. My mentality has always been kind of an all or nothing type of girl. I'm not going to go, oh, I'll see if I get qualified for the Olympia. I will go kind of all in to try my hardest to try and get qualified. So that's kind of the same mentality I'll do this year, and try and do as many shows as I can. try and travel the globe as much as I can again this year.
Yeah, I know you're a world traveler, and this is definitely put a bit of a stop on that. And last time we had Carla on the show, she was telling us, Carla, you were talking about how you want to grace the Olympia stage, show your tattoos, be up there, represent. So what are you going to do? Are you planning on hopping in as many shows as possible, or?
Honestly, since the last time you and I talked, I just decided that I'm going to compete because I love it. And if I make it to the Olympia, I make it. And if I don't, it's okay. I don't want to put that kind of pressure, especially after what's happened to all of us this year. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on myself and, make it about making it to the Olympia, because it changes it changes my dynamic of prepping. It changes my mindset. It changes everything, with competing. And so, I'm just going to do some shows that I really want to do. I have a few in mind that I really want to do, and I'm just going to do those. And like I said, if I make it, I make it. And if not, then that's okay. I do want to do the Puerto Rico Pro, which is the last show before the cutoff for the Olympia. And then after that, I just want to vacation a little bit, and just going to compete because I love it. Not really worried about the Olympia anymore this year.
If anything, this has taught us is that, we're doing this lifestyle because we love it, not because there's a stage or there's a show, but because we're genuinely committed to our own personal growth and development and the things bodybuilding brings us outside of, the trophies, the qualifications, the stepping out there. But there is a level of, I guess you could say, demand for elite athletes like you girls to come out and show yourselves, show face. And Ashley, I was thinking about you because I know there's a lot of events, expos, things like that you've been invited to and people expect you to show up for. And this may be too much of a question, but I was curious if there's any worry about contracts, sponsorships, guest appearances, things like that falling through the cracks now.
Well, it's funny you say that because I actually had 2 seminars planned, and those both got canceled. So, yeah, I mean, there will be others. I think, in this time, people are very less likely to even have that on their mind because they have bigger things on their plate. But, this is just a phase, and I'm sure when things are eventually going to go back to normal. We just don't know when. So, you know, in the meantime, I try to be more active on social media and stuff like that, because it is a nice feeling to be able to help people in whatever way you can. But yeah, I mean, it does suck, but it's, you know, it's life, and it will return to normal eventually. So it's just, you know, just got to tough it out.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone's life's being impacted in some way. And it's challenging for all of us in different ways. And, you know, I'm sure there's people listening going, oh, none of these girls work regular jobs. Oh, none of these girls have to worry about it. They work for themselves, or they're influencers, or this or that. And I actually wanted to touch on this. And I want to start with you, Anya. You and Phoebe as well. I'm going to get your insight on this too, but you both do posing coaching. So have you noticed an impact on your business since this has happened?
Annie, you can go first.
Okay. I honestly have both in a positive aspect and a negative aspect. On the positive side of things, I've had a lot of girls reach out and say, like, they want to make this a productive time and make sure that they're still making progress with their posing. The negative side of it being that being unemployed or not being able to book sessions as frequently as they'd like kind of limits them and the progress that they're able to make with a coach. So what I've tried to do on my end of things is give the girls that, you know, might not be financially in a position to book as many sessions right now or to work on their posing, an avenue to still send in assessments and to check in with me on a weekly or bi-weekly basis on their posing. So they just send in videos. So I love being able to do that because, of course, I want, you know, everyone to make progress that I had started posing before all of this happened, and not letting them feel like they're at a standstill now because of everything that's going on, whether it's the show getting canceled or not being able to afford it financially. So making sure that my clients are still being taken care of is pretty important. And a lot of them are really optimistic about the show season, to be honest. I've had some girls who are like very competitive say, like, I want to be posing as much as possible right now. Like, this is a time for me to grow, and I can either take a step back or take a step forward. And I know when the season opens back up on the pro level, and then of course at the amateur level too, shows are going to be stacked. So there's some very high expectations, and of course pressure for all of us to improve and bring our best packages and have posing on point. So.
And Phoebe, have you noticed similar outcomes when you're with your business?
Yeah, definitely. Because my posing is mainly in person. So obviously, because the UK is a lot smaller, I can travel a lot more in terms of like to different parts of the country and stuff. So it will only take me like 2-3 hours to get to like a certain point, somewhere different in the country. So each, I think, for the last, when all of this happened was, I think it was how many weeks ago now? It was mid-March. So mid-March was the last time I kind of saw my kind of posing girls in person. And I had kind of the next, how many weeks was it? I think the next 6 weeks booked up in person. And they were all kind of filling up. Well, most of them were full. There was a few that were like not and stuff, but they all had to get cancelled, which for me is very difficult because obviously they, to be fair, I've switched them all to online, which has been really handy. Some of them, obviously, they want to kind of reschedule, which is fine. A lot of my clients kind of understand, obviously, the situation going on and aren't asking for refunds and stuff, which is really good of them. Because obviously, then that puts me in a financially difficult position as well. If everyone was to ask kind of for a refund, then that's difficult on my behalf. But it's nice that they've all kind of understand the situation that we're going through and stuff. But it has been a little bit difficult in terms of posing, just getting everyone online, because everyone likes to do things in person over here for some reason. So everyone which I get in person is like, it's nice, it's more personal with posing. So it's nice for me to actually kind of like correct their posing in person, all that sort of thing. And that's what they pay for. And so now it's obviously had to be changed or moved to online. That's a bit more difficult, but a lot of people have understood. And it's the same with online coaching and stuff with me. All of my clients have understood. I've done a few kind of lives with them and kind of gone through exercises, changed all their workouts and all that type of thing. I think now is kind of like a good time to stay accountable. I think Jen said that earlier with like staying accountable with your coaches is more important more than anything, because like it just keeps you sane more than anything. It keeps you kind of going and gives you a little bit more focused, instead of being like, oh, I'm gonna cancel or not have coaching for the next couple of weeks. It shifts your mindset a lot, I think. So it's nice having that accountability and kind of having that road to keep steady on.
I definitely agree with you on that. I think now is actually the best time to invest in coaching, to invest in mentors, to invest in your growth, or in your accountability. I don't know that there's ever been a better time. I think, although I'm someone who would argue it's always a good time to do that, and I'm probably partial because I do mentorship, but at the same time, I do believe this is a great time to do it, because things are going to start surfacing and being revealed to you, that if you can have external support and you don't take on all the pressure of the world and all the pressure of the changes and growth you're trying to make, it can feel really good. And Jen, you're also a competition coach. And how are you guys keeping on top of your girls? You mentioned accountability has been important for you. Phoebe's talked about it. So, and I heard Anya in agreement. So how are you guys keeping on top of your girls and approaching their preps?
So we've had a few things going on with our clients. I mean, a lot of our clients obviously were like, 4, 5, 6 weeks out of their show. And when you're at that point, you're close to a show, chances are you're likely suffering because you're at a low body fat. You kind of feel uncomfortable. I know for me, at least at that point, I don't feel amazing. It's not all sunshine and rainbows at that point. And you're definitely, your diet's usually low. Your cardio is high for most people at that point. So it's hard to stay motivated and almost be like, I don't feel like I should be having to suffer when there's no show date in mind. So for a lot of our clients who were close to shows that got canceled or postponed, we've just been saying, okay, let's not just throw it out the window and go eat. Let's reverse diet now into your show, because you're going to end up looking a lot better. One, your body's going to be less tired. You're going to be eating more food, less cardio. You're going to end up looking a lot better. And let's utilize this time to focus on, for instance, posing if that's a weakness of yours. Or let's say you already were, a little bit behind in your prep, you weren't 100% ready. This just gives you that extra time. So we have a few things that we're doing internally with competitions for our clients. One of them was we switched all of our check-ins to be weekly check-ins. So all of our clients, as long as they're checking in weekly, they're staying on top of everything. At the end of this, if they haven't missed any of their check-ins, they will get a free month of coaching. If they've missed their check-ins, then they're disqualified from the contest, obviously. So that's kind of like a motivation to actually check in on time. And then we also do have an internal competition with prize money that we were doing. So over the next 8 weeks, whoever has the best transformation, whether it be getting leaner or muscle building or body transformation, we do have a few prizes going on. So that's been pretty motivational for a lot of our athletes.
That's definitely motivating, and it shows them that you guys are there for them. And I was actually talking to one of my friends who is also in business, not in this field, but just in business in general. And we can approach business in many different ways. And I think there's a lot of people now showing up and giving so much more value to the girls who are already invested in them. And that's been really cool to see.
So important too.
They appreciate it, I'm sure.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like everyone needs a little bit of extra support and a little bit of extra like emotional care at this time too, because it's obviously not an easy transition for anyone, whether you're a seasoned pro, whether you're an amateur, someone doing their first show, for instance. I know we have a few girls who are doing their first show, and that's tough because you already don't really know what to expect in your first competition prep. And then it's like, you want everything to be perfect, and then you're like, what is going on with this apocalypse in our life? Like, I really feel for some of the girls because I know it's disappointing, but we're all kind of in the same boat. So I think the biggest thing is just letting them know that, like, just so you know, guys, I'm on the same page as you. I totally feel your struggle, but we got to keep going because we got to look at the end goal and what your overall goals are. So when people feel like turning to food, it's like, is that aligning with your goals of what you want to be? Even though in the moment you might feel like, I want to eat this chocolate bar. Does that align with where you want to be tomorrow morning when you wake up? Or is that really aligning with what your focus is?
Absolutely.
I really love that.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Short term, it's so easy to be like, well, my show is not going to be like, even myself, I'm like, well, I went from being 10 weeks out to 17 weeks out. So, technically I'm not really in a prep because I usually don't start preps until 16 weeks out. So when your mind starts to go like that, then you kind of just have to shut it down and be like, nope. And get back to like, what are my goals? What do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish?
And identify why and where that mindset shift is happening. Like, why is that even occurring? Why are we all of a sudden going, oh, I want this or I want that? And let yourself go into the potentially dark places that are being revealed. And, you know, I've had girls who have reached out to me for post-show help. They've never stepped on stage, yet they're experienced the post-show blues because their show was changed, or that was the only time they were planning on competing, or maybe they were experiencing the financial situation and struggle that Anya was talking about too. And actually, Carla, you mentioned it at the beginning. Your husband lost half of his salary, and I think that you're someone a lot of people can probably relate to as well. How have you been handling that mentally through this time? I mean, how has it changed your life to have lost like half of a salary?
I didn't, my husband and I are very close. You know, he's my best friend, so I feel like everyone's husband should be their best friend, but he didn't tell me for a couple of days, and I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't exactly sure what. He cooks for me a lot. He works in, you know, the restaurant business, so he was cooking for me, and when he told me, he started crying, and so that made me cry because I've only seen him cry a handful of times. And it's not about losing half of his salary. It's about, for me, it's about someone that you love so much that you see work so hard, like 16, 17-hour days sometimes, 5 days a week. Now he's working 6 days a week, just trying to keep their business open. And that's what hurt me, I think, is just seeing all of his hard work. It just feels so, there's nothing you can do. You have no control over it. So we've been managing pretty well, actually. And, you know, I dare say this, me being at home has forced me to not spend as much money. So I'm not going to the grocery store every other day and buying things that I think look good and making my kids eat it so they can tell me what it tastes like. I'm not going out to eat, you know, like I'm not spending money on a bunch of stuff that we don't need. Not driving my car, so I'm not buying gas. It's just, so we've actually saved money in the last couple of weeks, and so that's helped us. And I know this is just short term, it's not long term. So he's just taking it day by day. I'm taking it day by day, just like most of the girls that we're talking to. I have posing clients, I coach girls. I've lost, you know, some prep clients because they don't feel that prep is, you know, coaching is worth the money right now. And I understand that. That's the choice that they have to make for themselves and their family. And I obviously can't bring people into my home to pose, into my posing studio right now, because I can't have people around my children. So our lives have changed drastically, but we're just, you know, trying to stay positive, and we keep hoping. Every time we think that we're going to be released from quarantine, they extend the date. So it's
I know.
I know, it's the worst.
Seriously.
I know. So I don't want to get excited about April 30th, because I'm like, what if they extend it again?
California's extended it through June, and I was like, no, I'm supposed to compete
No.
on June 28th. I'm gonna have to drive my ass over to
Oh my
Vegas.
God.
When did they do that? That's news to me.
Yeah, I guess they just did this.
When?
Like, I think it was a couple days ago.
No. It's still April 30th for now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I watch like 2 hours of the news every day.
Okay,
I
good.
think
Then
they're thinking about that. I think they're thinking about that. I mean, I hope
Oh
I'm right.
God, I retract my
I think
statement.
they're thinking about through June.
Ashley,
But
you've just broken Ashley's heart.
Ashley's
He's
like, I'm
don't
gonna
you dare
come
talk
through.
chaos it.
like, shoot, I'm moving.
I know. We're all going to Vegas with Jen. Or are you in Canada right now, Jen? Or are you in Vegas?
I'm stuck in Canada, so the borders are closed.
Oh
I've been here
No.
for 2 months. I was supposed to be back there, but I'm stuck here, which, I mean, it's definitely tough because obviously, like, my boyfriend and my dogs live there, but,
I was gonna ask if
I'm
you're
here
with
with my
them.
family at least. So.
Oh man, that
No,
must be
so
tough.
we're just FaceTime. Yeah, it definitely is tough, but I mean, at least I'm here with my mom and sister, so I'm thankful for that. But it definitely sucks that, you know, I was supposed to be going back there like a couple weeks ago, and I would have been there, but obviously right now that's not happening. So I'm like hoping and praying that the borders open up soon. I don't know how realistic that is, but
we're gonna see on the news like this bodybuilder jumps the border and
she goes to get her dogs. Yeah.
Oh,
It'll be interesting though.
It's so weird. Like all of the whole situation's made me grateful for a lot of the smaller things that I really did take for, like I didn't even realize I took for advantage beforehand. Like just going out for a simple walk or going to the gym or just little things like that. When you're told not to do something, you immediately want to do it. So like for me, traveling to here, there and everywhere from the UK to America, I was like, oh, it's fine. Like I love doing like traveling and stuff. Now I'm really taking it for advantage because I'm like, damn, like I miss doing that now. I miss just going to the gym or going to just to get coffee or something like that.
Like going to the mall just to walk around even.
Yeah,
like,
just do even to do that,
anything.
it's something.
Yep. I don't even remember who was saying it earlier, like how as an introvert you're all like excited. It was Anya, I think. You're like excited.
Yeah.
And then you're told like you can't and you're like, well, now I want to. And I can't.
Exactly how it went.
Yeah.
It's more like the freedom that's been taken away. I think that's what, because we're all very like independent anyway. As I think as an athlete of this caliber, I think you have to be very independent to kind of obviously dedicate yourself to this type of thing. But because now that freedom's been taken away, it's like, what do I do now?
Yes, and let this be a lesson too about food. I'm just gonna chime in here with it, but like restriction breeds fixation, which increases the urge. So if you girls are listening,
I was just thinking that,
right? Like we restrict with our food, we want it. That's also why there's a lot of that desire. As soon as that show date's lifted or that prep is over, we get that experience of, oh, now I want to eat this and that. It's just because that freedom that may be your only freedom in your life right now. And understanding that and reflecting on that can help us to make more conscious choices for ourselves. And I think Ashley actually posted about this, I want to say maybe today or the other day, about how food has to go beyond just, your physique goals, but also health and how you feel on a day-to-day basis. So shifting the focus.
So much boredom eating that can happen. So we gotta be careful.
Yes, indeed. So shift that focus, think about other reasons why this is important. And now there were a lot of questions submitted by the listeners, and I want to get all of your guys' take on this, but we could kind of just flow with it. And I wanted to hear what you guys thought about the changes to the qualification standards, not just for the Olympia, but also for national shows, for those girls who are going to be competing to get their pro card. Now they've opened it up to be top 5 from last year can actually go and step on a national stage. And some girls are investing in competition prep right now and some girls aren't, like Carla brought up. And Anya and Phoebe talked about how some girls aren't investing in posing anymore. Some girls are taking full advantage of this. Anya says she thinks it's going to be stacked. I've heard other people say girls won't have the money to compete. It's not going to be stacked. So knowing all of these different parts and pieces, what are you guys expecting to see? Let's talk first about the Olympia qualifications. Do you think these pro shows are going to be packed with people, take, hours to run?
Oh, for sure.
You do?
Yeah,
you think
for
so?
sure.
I also think they're going to change the Olympic qualifications. I bet you they're going to do like an invite system like they do with the Arnold, or maybe the top few who win
top
a pro show.
maybe. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Or they're not going to have the qualification round, just get rid of it completely.
Oh, that's right. That's another good point. Yeah.
I think definitely this year will be, each year is always very busy, but I think now more than anything, from what I've seen, a lot of the pros, they have that mentality of, I will jump into a show whenever there's one that's ready. And that's
why we're pros.
I've seen from a lot of girls, which is good, obviously, because it's really nice to see that kind of mentality, because it makes me push even harder, because I'm like, well, if she's not giving up, then I ain't giving up either.
Yeah.
And then it makes it like even harder. Do you know what I mean? But I think obviously there's obviously a few out there that are wanting to stop and kind of step back and say, okay, because on the other end, I have seen people push their shows way back and say, do you know what, I'm not going to go for 2020 this year, I'm going to go for 2021 instead. So do shows in September, October, that type of like, they're trying to aim for that instead now. So it just depends on what your situation, like where you are in the situation or how like fortunate you are in the situation. And I think it's just about being realistic, because I know obviously we're very fortunate where we can kind of jump in because we don't have to kind of either take time off work or do something kind of drastic and like kind of schedule everything around the show, but because we have a lot of freedom within our schedules, but as other people do, and they have to kind of schedule things around it, and they might not have the money to do it and stuff like that. So it just depends, I think. But I do think a lot of those shows, even with amateurs, will be busy as well. I think the amateur shows will still be really busy.
I think so too. I think they'll be pretty stacked. I know even myself, like I'm planning on doing Tampa, and I know that show is always stacked. And I'm like, this year, I'm honestly, I'm so nervous for it because I'm like, I know it's just going to be massive. Like it's usually 30 or 40 girls. It'll probably be like 50 plus girls just because so many people want to get in that last shot, you know, and a lot of people are already in prep. So people figure, why just throw it out the window? Why not just push it back a few more months? I think it'll be pretty stacked. I guess it just depends on the international travel, I guess, if we can travel or not, because a lot of the competitors at the shows are international competitors. And if you look at even like the Olympia or these shows, the top 5, a lot of the girls are international. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do if, I mean, the international travel isn't lifted.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you know something, I think that, you know, the Olympia Committee is very fair, and they realize a lot of competitors are international competitors, and they might not have the same you know, experiences here in the US, because there's shows here all the time, right? When things get up and going, there's shows here all the time, but like, who knows when that will be accessible to people in other countries. So I think that like they'll make special exceptions, I believe. That's why I mentioned like they might do a few like special invites,
so
like Jennifer, for example, for you. I bet you if you didn't qualify, they would invite you. You know what I mean?
You guys are listening.
Ben's like, please.
Oh man, that's such an interesting point, actually, just how they will consider it. Because I'm thinking even from like an ethical standpoint, consideration for all these different people's things they have access to, things they don't have access to, how the Arnold in Australia was canceled for this reason. Travel was difficult for people, so it will be very interesting. And Anya, we were in the same amount of weeks out. I was following your journey on YouTube. I was really sad because then I couldn't watch your YouTube videos anymore as we were prepping together. And so how are you going to go into this, or how have you been reverse dieting out of this? What have you been doing?
So I've been continuing with prep, trying to make progress week by week. So my diet hasn't changed. My cardio has been adjusted. And then I still have like the same training, but just adjustments made since quarantine started. So not much has changed there. Thankfully, I'm still trying to lean out. It is a little bit difficult. So I've had like 1 week where I had to do baseline again and kind of pick things up from where I left off. Again, with going in the pantry, getting out of the mindset of being focused on food. So making sure that I stick to my prep and just kind of keeping things in line, and, you know, not much has changed, just sticking to plan.
Okay. Yeah, I know some girls like myself, and like how Jen mentioned, really reverse dieting, holding the conditioning, ready to pull the trigger when the next show's set in stone. And then there's other girls who aren't really doing that, but majority of you are planning on it. And some of you do have that feeling of, oh my gosh, the level of competition is going to be massive. There's going to be so many girls ready and bringing it. So Jen, you said you were a little nervous about that. What goes through your mind when you think about it?
I think it's because I did Tampa in 2018. Like that was the last show I did when I qualified for the Olympia. That was my rookie year. And that was the most nervous I've ever been in my life to step on stage. I remember I was like shaking before I went on stage, because that was like the make it or break it if I would make it to the Olympia in points my first year. And just the show was so big and there's so many big names. And I was like, you know, like all these people, I was looking around, I'm like, all these girls look amazing. Like, how am I going to stack up to them? So I think we all kind of go through that in every show. I kind of feel like that, but just knowing that there's going to be so many competitors trying to qualify at these shows, there's only, you know, maybe 1 or 2 months span of shows before the Olympia. So I think that's where that comes from, is like, it's hard to stand out when there's so many girls on stage without being overlooked. So I think just focusing on bringing my best, knowing that everyone else is bringing their best, it's good. It's motivating me a little bit more, because I know like I need to be like 100% on for this show. Like there's no room for 1% off or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good thing. I mean, I think that's motivating.
Can I chime in just for a
Mhm.
second? When there's that many girls, I don't know about for you girls, when there's that many girls on stage, because I didn't compete at muscle contest last year. I don't remember what show it was. I think there was like 60 girls
Oh my goodness,
on
Oh,
at
yeah.
that show.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, it becomes not enjoyable to compete at shows like that when there's that many girls, and you can't do anything to control. Like once you sign your contract, once you're in for it, you can't back out of it. Say, oh, you know what? There's 60. Like I don't really want to go through that on show day. I mean, it just becomes it's not comfortable to stand there in line while 60 girls are doing their 1 minute routine. And sometimes, obviously, they do cut it. I've had shows where they cut them down, and I've had shows where they don't cut them down. And it's just really uncomfortable. I don't know about for anybody else, but it's very stressful to stand there in heels for 45 minutes almost waiting before you go on
I know
stage.
what
It's a
you
lot.
mean in terms of uncomfortability. I think it then just kind of takes us back to why we do it. I think what you said earlier, I think that really made sense in terms of like, I know it's so uncomfortable standing on stage with 50, 60 girls. And it does really sometimes think, oh, what's the point if I'm going to be looked over? But then it does really kind of come back to why we compete, and we compete because we really want to kind of like do it for ourselves more than anything, and to prove to ourselves that we can really bring our best, not just physique wise, but mentality wise and stuff like that as well. I know obviously it's so hard to see it that way when it is literally like 60 girls, because you're like, well, I'm not going to be looked at, so what's the point? But it's just taking yourself back and taking a step back and realizing your why and stuff like that. That's what I have to do on the daily when kind of hard situations come up, or I see that the list is really large, like a week out, and the list is huge, and I'm like, oh God, how am I going to be kind of looked at? I don't know how I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And then I just kind of look back to my why and kind of look at my journey, as corny as it sounds, but it really does help my mentality with moving forwards.
I feel like I'm a fly on the wall listening, because like I feel like I'm that representation of the amateurs, like listening in on what the pros are going through, because I know there's so many girls who feel this way when they go to the nationals or when they go to any even regional show. This is on everybody's mind, you know, what's that level of competition? And I just want to say, like, I'm shocked to hear you guys are surprised. Like, I would never overlook any of you. That's why I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they feel that way. So I appreciate you guys being so open and vulnerable about that feeling.
I think everyone kind of feels like that, no matter whether you're like Ashley, even like Miss Olympia, you probably have felt like that at some point too. You know, we all started the same place. You know, we all went through the same trials to go through the stage. So it's kind of like, before you step on stage, I think everyone gets nervous. It's normal. It's just part of it. But for the competition thing, with the shows being so big, it definitely is tough standing on stage for so long. But I know, like Sandy and Tyler lately, for some of the shows, they have the girls file off after their individual routine. So that way we're not left standing on stage for like 45 minutes and then trying to do call outs after we've been holding our poses for so long. Even like at the Olympia, they had done that, just because I think if people had mentioned, it's tough to hold your pose without cramping up on stage for 45 minutes. And then you go to do first call outs or second call outs, and you've already, you know, pretty much like you're drenched, you're dead from posing for so long on the sideline that it's hard to keep your composure on stage. But I kind of think the competition is a good thing. Like if I enter into a show, usually I choose the bigger shows because I like the aspect of competition, because obviously we're we're aiming to compete too, right? So I kind of like when I see a big show. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I like when it's like a big show because you also get to meet so many different people, and I think that's a big part of it.
That's what I like as well. I'm
I
a
love
big
that,
fan
yeah.
of that.
That makes me nervous thinking about so many girls
Yeah.
there. Like, not so much the stepping on stage. I like the bigger shows for the fact of, oh, I'll really get an idea of how I stack up.
Mhm.
But for like the amount of
Yes.
girls backstage, I'm like, and like, don't want to talk to anybody, which is weird because I run this podcast and I talk to girls all the time. But I'm like, no, I'm too nervous. I'm like scared to meet people, all that stuff. But yeah, the actual act of competing, Jen, I get it. Like wanting to enter the big shows.
Mhm.
It's great to hear they've made modifications for the issue Carla presented as well. And Anya, it sounded like you were in agreement about, seeing how you stack up.
Yes, that's one of my big concerns for the season is like not just like picking a small show and being able to place, but just being on stage if it does end up being a really stacked up and there are top pros, being able to stand next to them during call up and seeing where you're at, what you need to improve on, or if you don't need to improve on anything, and you can continue and go into your next show 3-4 weeks later. So that's really what I'm focusing on when it comes to getting on stage. I think it'd be fun to do a show where there's a number of girls. Hopefully they do file us off. That way we're not left on stage standing there for X amount of time. But yeah, that's mainly what I'm excited for this season is being able to stand next to some of the top pros and girls that I have looked up to for such a long time and kind of see where I sit in the pack.
Yeah, like I can imagine if I were to stand next to any of you girls on stage, I would just be excited to see what I look like next to you guys. I'd be like, okay. It's not like my pick stitch on Instagram, like comparing, but no. Yeah, it is cool. It's an awesome opportunity. I think that's part of what girls are excited about entering the pro league about is how do I look against the most elite? How can I level up? What's required of me to be at the top or even set a new standard or live up to a new standard? And it's just really awesome to hear your guys' perspective on that. And I wanted to also talk about like overcoming any anxieties or taking different approaches, just kind of not so much on the competition aspect, but more on the life aspect. And Carla, you brought up how you are teaching your kids right now. You also have to protect them. They've got a lot of anxieties coming up. So what have you found to be most helpful for you in this time with managing and taking care of your own mental health?
That's a good question. I don't even know what day it is. No, just I'm like, what day is it? What time is it? Honestly, making sure that my kids are taken care of is my first priority. They're older. My son's almost 13. My daughter's almost 16. So my daughter has been struggling quite a bit with just her online schoolwork because she's in all advanced placement courses. So it's extremely difficult for her. My son hates online school. That's been this. Let's just say, you guys, I never want to be a teacher. That's all I know. That is all I
can
know.
imagine.
It's so difficult. I'm like, oh my gosh. But making sure that they're taken care of first, making sure that my son, he's an outdoor person. So when my husband is off once a week, I make sure that he takes him and to the ranch and he does kid stuff outside on the ranch to make sure that their mental health is first. My daughter, I have to make sure, I don't even feel, I live in a large city, so taking her like out in the public is not really a good idea right now. So just making sure that I get her outside to walk even has been something that I'm trying to work on. And then just my mental health, I'm taking it day by day. So in the beginning of this, I was a lot worse than I am now. I'm getting better as the days like go on. It's just it's very stressful to lose a lot of things at one time, everything to just change so quickly. So I'm getting better every day. I just have to make sure that I do, as long as I do my cardio, that helps me release some endorphins. So as long as I do my cardio, I feel better and I'm okay. So I've been doing fasted cardio lately because I usually haven't been doing that. I usually do my cardio later in the afternoon, but I've been doing fasted cardio so that I can get some blood flowing and moving first thing in the morning so that I can feel better.
I think
That's
so.
been helping.
People forget, like, a lot of us got into this for our mental health, and the physique and the body was the bonus, you know. The act
Yes.
of competing came second. We were already living the lifestyle, and this, a lot of it was for mental health. And so this is actually a blessing to be able to still find ways to move our body and get that fulfillment. And yeah, I find, like, whenever anxiety comes up or stressing about what's to come, I just try to focus on present moment awareness. And so whether that's breath work or looking around the room and identifying an object I can describe exactly as it is or imagine. So like, oh, that blanket over there looks so fuzzy, and if I crawled into it, it would be so incredibly warm. And just immersing myself into something that's in the present is helpful for me when anxiety comes up, as well as, like you said, like focusing on what we do have and what we can do with the situation is really helpful. And does anybody else have anything they've been doing day to day to keep on top of their mindset?
For me,
Oh,
oh,
you.
sorry, go ahead.
Jen?
Oh, sorry. uh, for me, I've just been making I'm like super OCD about to-do lists and all this stuff, scheduling. So every morning I just have a little to-do list with things that, like, in order of priority that I need to get done today. And then things that if I can fit it in, these are things that I need to get done this week. So having like a little bit of a to-do list or a schedule laid out that I stick to, so I know I'm still making things happen, still being productive. And first thing in the morning, I do try and list like at least 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. And I think a lot of people do that, but it does really make a big difference in your mindset for waking up and what am I grateful for? And then setting the intention for the day. What am I getting done today? What are my goals for today or for this week? And kind of reflect on like, what could I have done better last week that I'm going to aim for this week?
I love that. Having a routine, like not only for your day, but also for your mindset, something you can do every day. The first thing I ask myself when I wake up is, what am I looking forward to today? That gets me out of bed, gets me excited.
And I think just like actually writing down, or if most of us have, if you have an iPhone, there's the reminders or the tasks app on it. And that just helps a lot, being able to tick off things on a to-do list. You just feel more productive versus just mentally ticking it off. So I physically will like write it down in my notes or on the reminders, and then I'll go and tick it off or erase it once it's done. And I think that helps me stay on track too.
Yeah, that's definitely the same with me. Just kind of like keeping, like, I think Ashley said it earlier as well, like just keeping everything, like your routine, the same as what it was beforehand, whether it's like doing your cardio or your training, or just making sure that everything kind of is as near the same as what it was beforehand as possible. So you can just kind of make sure that it's not too much, like you don't focus about too much what's going on, like, and the stresses and stuff. Obviously I know you have to kind of, what I've helped with is like, what helps me has kind of like making sure that I know what's stressing me out. So like identifying, okay, if I feel stressed, what's actually stressing me out? I know obviously the situation in the world of what is going on at the moment, but what physically is actually stressing me out? Like, is it something particular, or is it just this whole situation that's going on? Is it the fact I can't go out? Is it like little things? I just need to make sure that I like identify them, and that kind of helps me keep calm. Because the other day I went to the shops, and I keep forgetting to obviously about this social distancing. And like for me, it's like, as much as I adjust in terms of my routine and environment, the one thing I haven't adjusted to is the social distancing very well. So like when I'm just walking to the shops or like in the supermarket, sorry, grocery store, I forget we've got different words, but when I'm in there, and I'm walking towards someone, I forget to sometimes move away. And like, and then when someone comes towards me, I like move away. But like when there's loads of people around, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to move or stay still until she goes past. And it gives me like stress, but I'm like, okay, let's just calm down. This is why it's stressing me out, and we'll just kind of like work forwards. So it's kind of like making sure that your stresses aren't like taking over, and just realizing what is actually stressing me out sometimes, because I know obviously it's a very stressful time and there's more things to kind of be stressed over.
That's a really, really great tip, to really identify what's stressing you out and then do something about it. And Ashley, I remember you had talked about Oh shoot, it just escaped me. I was literally going to ask you about something you mentioned. If it comes back, we'll bring it up
Okay.
because it was something that I was really curious about actually. So Anya, did you have anything you're doing in your day to day?
Yes, so I actually wanted to chime in earlier, but writing out the to-do list or like downloading an app for like writing a list of things to do is something that's helped me a lot. Making sure I keep a schedule and planning out my day every day, even if I don't have much to do other than go to the grocery store, train and get cardio done, figuring out what time of day I want to do that, and then making a list of things that maybe I've put off that I still need to do, and making sure I get that done too. Definitely helps me with keeping a routine and not stressing over things.
Yes.
That definitely helps.
Definitely having that daily ritual, having something to focus on that keeps you in the right mindset. And I remembered, Ashley,
Okay.
you've been giving back as well. And I think that can do a lot for our mental health. So I believe it was with your suit sponsor, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so how has that helped you?
That, you know what, it just feels good to be able to help. Some people aren't in the best position, and we can all do something to help out somebody else. And sometimes you just got to get creative. Like, I thought, well, I have a lot of suits, competition suits. I know that those go for a bit of money. And I was like, the masks, in the healthcare system, they're very sparse these days. And I saw that Angels was actually making masks, and they take about like $7 to make. So I came up with the idea, you know what? How about I take some of my used Angel suits that I don't wear very frequently, and do a little collab with Angels so that they can produce more masks for the healthcare workers, and somebody gets a suit out of it so they can bid on a suit and help out as well. So that was my little way to give back. I also kind of want to also like maybe donate blood or something too. Something that a lot of people don't even think about is there's a blood shortage as well, because nobody wants to go out of their house. So I might do that as another way to help. But yeah, it feels good to do my part in society, whatever I can to help out the situation.
Yeah, donating blood, donating platelets, getting yourself in a position to give if you can. That's a really awesome way to do that. And I know a lot of people are going grocery shopping for elderly people, or finding a way to give back to their community, or even just connect. Like in our community, there's like this group, and they'll talk about how can we entertain the kids in the community around here. Like, okay, put Easter eggs in your front yard, and then they can drive by and count them on Easter, or put like stuffed animals or chalk, or drop things off. People are doing like birthday signs outside. Phoebe's birthday is next week, actually.
Yeah,
Happy early birthday.
I would have been inside anyway prepping, so it doesn't kind of change anything. And I think the last 2 birthdays I've been on prep, but I've gone to like the cinema or something. So It's been like something like, oh, we'll go out and do something. But now it's like, what shall I do? What film shall I watch from home this weekend? But I don't mind. Obviously, I really don't mind. And like, I'm honestly just grateful that I'm like able to just be inside and be in a good situation. Like that's just, I'm okay with that.
I know. I think a lot about like the homeless, think about the people who have severe mental health problems. That's the kind of stuff that's been weighing on me. It's just like those people who don't have access to what they need, or people who are in terrible situations at home, or just whatever, that's kind of stuff. But I'm glad, it's not going to change much of your celebration, Phoebe. I was actually wondering about that, because most of us go on prep on our birthdays, or we're on prep. I was on prep and I was like, okay, well, we'll celebrate after our show. And then all the restaurants got closed, and I was like, forget it. I'll celebrate in next December. It's fine.
I'm like, my actual 25th birthday will now be postponed until next year. So
I don't age at all anymore.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, me and my boyfriend were gonna actually go to Colorado, and we were gonna visit Anya, we were gonna visit Adam, and we were going to see if we wanted to live there, and now we had to cancel our whole entire trip, and that really sucked. We were gonna celebrate our 5-year anniversary there, and now we can't. I know.
I was so bummed when I found out y'all couldn't come.
I was bummed too. I was like, what the heck? This sucks. And, I think it's probably happening for a reason. I just keep reminding myself, like, there's got to be some bigger purpose. Maybe next time we go, there'll be, what if we fall in love with a house and then we can actually buy a house?
Yeah.
Or what if we're in a better position?
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, I think this situation is all about just kind of finding the positives within it. It's like, even without this situation, if something bad had happened just to you in general, you always try and pick out the positives. So that's what I'm trying to just do as much as I can. That kind of just gives me a bit of positivity throughout the day and stuff as well.
Absolutely. So, is there anything that I didn't touch on that you guys think that I should have, or maybe that you want to add to this?
No, we went through a lot. I think
we went through
different topics.
We did.
Good stuff.
Awesome. Carla?
Sorry, I had a rice cake in my mouth. And it's on my meal plan, people. It's on my meal plan. No, I think we covered everything.
Awesome. Okay,
I think it's
cool.
a really good podcast. It was nice to get everyone's kind of like insight onto how they're doing and like how everyone's getting on and stuff as well.
I appreciate you guys coming on here and sharing everything with us, giving us perspectives and insights. It was awesome that all of you were comfortable to share, even when there were some differing opinions or differing viewpoints or different situations. That was really special, and I so appreciate it, and I'm glad that we were able to get everybody on here and do this. Like,
I know, I'm so glad it worked out.
Oh, me too. I'm like, Jen's Wi-Fi's good, Anya's good, we're all here.
We're all here.
We made it.
Oh man, well, thank you guys so much. And to everybody listening, make sure that you go and listen to each individual person's episode as well. I'll put that in this show notes page, which is always on celestial.bit/podcast. I'm going to put all their social media profiles, their websites, everything that you need to connect with the athletes there. If you have follow-up questions, I know these girls are always open to answering them and checking in with you guys and celebrating with you. So definitely make sure you tag us while you listen. Let us know what you're thinking. How are you handling the situation? And of course, it means so much when you rate, review, and subscribe. So please do that or share with your teammates. And with all that being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world, while you are listening to this podcast episode. Just make it awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Les.